Hi everyone, welcome to Romance Stories. Before watching the video, please give me a like and subscribe. Thank you very much. After struggling in the entertainment industry for 2.5 years, I managed to harvest the largest collection of anti-fans on social media. Having failed to chase my dreams, I had no choice but to return home to inherit a multi-million-dollar fortune and, conveniently, marry a woman I had never even met. However, it turned out even my betrothed looked down on me. She didn't want a wedding ceremony, and she certainly didn't want me touching her. What's even more ridiculous is that she called me to lay down 3 ground rules for our arrangement. She said, "Hello, I already have someone I like. You don't need to waste your time on me. You can keep as many women as you want on the outside. I won't interfere." Similarly, she continued, "You are not to interfere in my business. Our marriage is strictly a transaction. 1 year from now, we will divorce. Don't go getting thick-skinned and refusing to sign the papers when the time comes." After her declaration, she hung up immediately. I stood outside her bedroom door, lost in thought, only to realize her room was absolutely packed with my own merchandise. I'm a bit of a sensitive soul. I bravely stepped into show business for 2.5 years, and despite having endless resources poured into me, I just couldn't break through. So, I finally bowed to my parents' wishes and fulfilled my promise to come home and get married. My bride-to-be is a wealthy socialite, cold, rational, and composed, named Ruby. According to my friends, Ruby possesses an incredibly seductive face, the kind described as a femme fatale. She easily makes people lower their guard, making them feel like she's just a gentle, lovely girl. But in reality, while she seems simple, she is deeply calculating. Her true nature is cold, harsh, and uncompromising. She only cares about herself. As my friend spoke, his tone grew increasingly sympathetic. "Liam," he said, "we all feel for you. Having to marry someone like that. Who knows what kind of miserable days you have ahead of you." I clutched my phone, silent for a long time, only able to let out a helpless, bitter laugh. After the call, I tapped on a private message on my social media app and hit send on the retirement statement I had prepared in my drafts long ago. Even though I was only an 18th-tier celebrity, I still had a few loyal fans. As soon as the announcement went live, familiar IDs began flooding my inbox. Among the dense sea of messages, one name stood out: Yen. This person was no stranger to me. For the past few years, whenever I posted anything, she was always the first to like it and comment. She was my ultimate, die-hard hardcore fan. Furthermore, because she was deeply passionate about photography, every shot she took was a high-definition, God-tier masterpiece. She poured an incredible amount of time and effort into supporting me, leading other fans to affectionately call her Sister Yin Yin. Clicking on her profile, her pin post was a compilation edit of my work alongside a video of her learning a choreography for me. Although she never showed her face, every movement was so earnest it radiated a touch of endearing clumsiness. However, what I remembered most were her messages. They were never filled with flowery prose, just a single sentence so simple it bordered on obsessive. "I hope you can be happy every day." But today, she broke her own rule. A dense wall of text filled the chat box, detailing how she had accidentally stumbled upon my videos during her darkest days. She wrote about how a random, offhand comment of mine helped her survive a night of insomnia. She wrote about how her fingers would tremble with excitement every time I updated. Finally, using what seemed like the last of her strength, she spoke with restrained sincerity. "I'm sorry, I might be rambling, but I still want to tell you. To me, you are a ray of light, a life-saving straw, the very motivation for me to keep living. During the time I've known you, I've been happy every day. To me, you are as vital as life itself." I stared at the screen and noticed numerous typos. She must have typed in a frantic rush, her fingers shaking so much she could barely hit the keys. As I finished reading that heartfelt mini-essay, my eyes began to sting. I finally replied to her with the utmost seriousness. "Thank you for your support and love over the years. I also hope you find happiness every day. If fate allows, we shall meet again." After responding to all my private messages, I took a deep breath, suppressed the lingering attachment in my heart, and prepared to delete my account. But suddenly, my fiancé's name appeared at the very top of the hot searches. Ruby caught weeping in her car. Curious, I clicked the link. A 10-second video autoplayed. The hazy streetlights reflected off Ruby's exquisite profile. Her long lashes were lowered, her body trembling slightly, and the tear tracks on her face were clear. She exuded an aura of total devastation, as if she were on the verge of a breakdown. The comments section was exploding. Whoa, so the Ice Queen actually cries. I guess the sun didn't rise from the west today. El Mayo, that sound. I thought the car was haunted for a second. Terrifying. Whatever spirit is possessing our eldest miss, please get out now. Someone asked, so what exactly provoked her to cry like that? That single question sparked a wave of speculation. Some said she was weeping over the injustice of an arranged marriage. Others claimed she was driven to tears by negative press. Regardless of the reason, I wasn't particularly interested. I scrolled past it a couple of times and then handed the final retirement tasks over to my manager. It was 2 a.m. I dragged my exhausted body home, and the moment I opened my phone, I discovered that the woman who topped the morning's hot searches had appeared in my friend requests. The verification message was 3 simple words: Ruby. I hesitated for 2 seconds before opening her profile. Ruby's profile picture was a black cat against a black background, and her bio was a complete blank, radiating a do not disturb energy. Rubbing my aching temples, I reluctantly hit accept. Ruby quickly sent a voice message. Her tone was cold and distant, as if she were dealing with a bothersome problem, barely maintaining basic politeness and upbringing. Mr. Noble, hello. I am your partner in this arranged marriage. I'm not used to communicating via voice messages, so I chose to type, hello. Ruby was in no mood for small talk and went straight to the point. Mr. Noble, the truth is, I already have someone I love. He is the only person I will ever love in this lifetime. Therefore, after we marry, you don't need to waste your time on me. Our marriage is just a transaction, she continued. I don't mind an open marriage. You can keep as many women as you want on the outside. I won't interfere. Similarly, you are not to interfere in my business. Then she added, Mr. Noble, I heard from your father that you have a first love you're very fond of who is currently abroad. I happen to be traveling abroad soon as well. If you agree, we can go together this time to create an opportunity for the two of you to meet. I was stunned, asking in disbelief. You mean you're willing to cover for me so I can go see my first love? Ruby replied, yes, that's exactly what I mean. After all, I don't want to be tied down by you. It's better for both of us if you have someone else to focus on. I was speechless. Why does she make it sound like I'm some sort of biohazard? For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I typed, go on, is there anything else? Ruby replied, one more thing. I hope you keep in mind that our marriage will only last for 1 year. A year from now, we will divorce. Don't go getting thick-skinned and refusing to sign the papers when the time comes. I replied, fine. Rest assured, I won't do that. Hearing my guarantee, Ruby immediately let out a sigh of relief. She said, oh, right, Mr. Noble. I don't think we need to hold a wedding ceremony, and naturally, there's no need to fulfill any marital duties. Our marriage doesn't need to be made public, either. I don't want too many people knowing. It's better for both of us. I had no objections and agreed. After rattling off this string of demands, Ruby went silent for a long time, likely worried she had missed something. After about 15 minutes, she finally finished her checklist and sent a final message. That's all for now. Oh, and Mr. Noble, personally, I don't believe in verbal promises. Words are just wind. So, to prevent a day in the future where you might regret this, I want to draft a contract for both of us to sign. Is that all right? The contract will cover asset division as well as everything we just discussed, the 1-year limit, no marital duties, me covering for you to see your first love, etc. Does that work for you? Of course, I have no problem with that, I replied. Fine, Miss Ruby, send me the contract, I replied. Ruby seemed satisfied. I'll send it over first thing tomorrow morning, she said. I thought for a moment and asked, by the way, Miss Ruby, do we need to meet once before we register the marriage? She rejected the idea instantly. No need. It's a waste of time. Besides, there's nothing interesting for us to see in each other until the day we sign the papers 3 days from now. Works for me, I said, nodding repeatedly. Fine, fine. Ruby was clearly terrified I might change my mind, so her efficiency was terrifying. By 4 a.m., she had already sent the digital draft. But what caught me even more off guard was that by 6 a.m. the next morning, she had personally hand-delivered a dozen pages of the physical contract to my house. While my mother was busy chatting with her, my father dragged me out of bed and shoved me into the bathroom to wash my face. Toothbrush still in my mouth, I leaned against the second-floor banister, lazily observing Ruby as she sat in the living room. Just as my friend had described, Ruby sat on a leather sofa with her long, pale legs crossed. Her tailored, high-waisted black dress perfectly accentuated her superior silhouette. It was a completely ordinary pose, yet her striking looks gave off an aura of pure, strange sensuality. No wonder my father insisted she was the carefully selected, perfect match for me. However, I immediately spotted a large cat-shaped bracelet on her wrist. Fan merchandise. It happened to be a piece from my own official collection, so it caught my eye instantly. It was quite amusing to see a cold, high-society socialite like Ruby wearing a cat bracelet. Seeing me brushing my teeth at a snail's pace, my mother tried to maintain the conversation with Ruby while shooting me frantic, hurry-up signals. Ruby, however, remained as calm as a still lake. Her mind seemed perfectly composed. Even her eyelashes didn't flicker as she looked at my mother with that trademark icy expression. Exasperated by my lack of reaction, my mother glared at me and then turned to Ruby, speaking directly. Ruby, dear, why don't you stay for breakfast? Liam is home right now. You two can meet and get to know each other. No need, Ruby replied. Her voice carried a distinct chill and distance. Auntie, there's no point in meeting. After all, we'll have more than enough time forced together in the future. It'll be hard not to see each other then, won't it? My mother wanted to say more, but Ruby cut her off coldly. I'll be taking my leave now, Annie. With that, she turned and walked straight out. At the exact moment, I slowly stepped into the living room. Ruby was walking out, pulling the door shut behind her. Throughout the entire process, she didn't cast a single glance in my direction. She might as well have tattooed, "I don't care," on her forehead. As soon as Ruby left my house, I received a message from her. Mr. Noble, I've handed the contract to your mother. You can sign it after reading. Once it's done, I'll have someone come by to pick it up for safekeeping. I took a serious look through the document. Beyond the terms we agreed on last night, there was a specific line at the end. All benefits arising from this marriage shall be split 40 to 60. He gets 40%, I get 60%. Furthermore, as long as I adhered to the no touching, no clinging rule during the marriage, I would receive a massive settlement upon divorce. It wasn't a small figure. I counted the zeros at the end and reread the contract with newfound respect. Forget not touching her. For that amount of money, I'd practically worship her. With a balance like that, I felt a bit uneasy taking it for nothing. Worrying, I asked, "By the way, Miss Ruby, there doesn't seem to be a clause in the contract regarding you and the person you like. Did you forget?" I asked in good faith, but Ruby's response was prickly and defensive. "Mr. Noble," she replied, "there's no need to probe. I know men care about their face. Therefore, during our marriage, I won't do anything that would make you a laughingstock to the outside world." I went quiet for a moment. Even through the screen, I could almost see her scowling at her phone, cursing stinking men for being so nosy while carefully adjusting her tone to reply. Furthermore, she continued, I would never do anything to tarnish his image, even if he didn't mind. At this point, Ruby paused. Mentioning the person she loved made her voice uncontrollably softer, almost tender. I will wait until my marriage to you is completely over before I go to be with him. Of course, that's assuming he doesn't despise me by then or hasn't moved on to someone else. I didn't expect her to be so pure-hearted. After a brief silence, she added, "By the way, send me your ID number." I suddenly grew alert. "What for?" "The day after we register the marriage. I have to go abroad," Ruby replied. "The city I'm going to happens to be where your first love lives. Don't you want to see her? We can go together. That way, I can tell our families we're going on a honeymoon to cover for you." I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen. Ruby, sensing my silence, began to coax me with uncharacteristic patience. "Mr. Noble, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. There won't be another coincidence like this. You really should think it over. If you miss this chance, who knows when you'll see her again." I was still torn. After all, when that woman and I broke up years ago, I had blocked every single way to contact her. "I heard from your mother that the breakup wasn't exactly pleasant," Ruby noted. "I have a close friend who is a relationship expert. She's the best at ideological work for couples who had a bad split. I can introduce her to you. I'll bring her along. By then, I can definitely help the two of you get back together." I was gradually won over by her persuasion. I figured I'd treat it like a vacation. Finally, I sent her my ID number. "Fine then. Sorry for the trouble, Miss Ruby." "Thank you," I replied. "Don't mention it," she shot back. Her mood seemed to skyrocket instantly, and her attitude toward me softened just a fraction. It was exactly as she said. She was genuinely terrified of me getting clingy. Initially, we agreed that her butler would come to collect the signed contract, but Ruby suddenly messaged me in the evening. "The butler suddenly has an emergency and can't make it. Mr. Noble, could you bring it over yourself?" She followed up with, "I'd prefer if you came in person rather than sending someone else. It's best if you come today. After all, the sooner the contract is signed, the sooner we can both rest easy." She was right about that. She was just afraid I'd change my mind. Honestly, I was more afraid she'd sneakily change the numbers on the settlement. I looked outside, saw the rain pouring down in sheets, and gritted my teeth as I rolled out of bed. Fortunately, Ruby's place was close, about a 10-minute walk from my house. Standing in front of Ruby's door, the decor felt strangely familiar, as if I'd seen it somewhere before. I entered the passcode she gave me and stepped inside easily. The layout of these units was mostly the same, so it didn't take much effort to find her study. However, I stopped dead in my tracks, lost in thought as I stared at the door in front of me. It was lotus pink, completely clashing with the rest of the house. Ruby's overall decor leaned toward an elegant French style. This garish pink door was the only exception. After a brief hesitation, I gently pushed the door open. In the next heartbeat, a massive personal poster slammed into my field of vision. I held my breath, unable to believe my eyes. The person on that poster was me. It was a shot from my second year after debut. If I hadn't stumbled upon it here, I would have forgotten this photo even existed. But the study didn't just have that poster. There were keychains, magazines, and every single product I had ever endorsed. There was even the cheap merchandise given away when I was the face of a bubble tea brand. Every single item was meticulously labeled with a date. Dozens of boxes of merchandise were arranged with such care they looked like sacred treasures. I rubbed my eyes hard, making sure I wasn't hallucinating. Furthermore, the placement of the desk and the arrangement of items on it were incredibly familiar. I thought back carefully and pulled out my phone to compare. Finally, I reached a staggering conclusion. Ruby, the cold and aloof socialite, turned out to be my hardcore fan, Yin. Before I could even recover from this realization, another message from her popped up. "Mr. Noble, I forgot to mention, leave the contract on the second floor. Do not go into the study on the first floor." I rubbed my nose, feeling a bit awkward. I replied, "Sorry, I already left the contract in the first floor study." Ruby seemed to panic instantly. A string of question marks flooded the chat. "Please put it down and leave immediately. Do not touch anything inside. Those things are incredibly important to me. If you break anything, I will never forgive you." I typed back, "Don't worry, I've put it down," and stepped out. Nothing is damaged. I looked back at the merchandise for a few seconds. There were items even I couldn't find anymore, yet Ruby had preserved every single one of them, so carefully they looked brand new. As I stared, a bold suspicion took root in my mind. I asked, "Miss Ruby, the person you said you liked, wouldn't happen to be this star, would it?" Ruby went silent for a long time before replying, "Yes." I replied with a row of ellipses. Ruby asked, "What's wrong? Do you know him? Or are you one of those anti-fans too?" I let out a bitter laugh. No, I'm pretty sure I don't know him." Ruby grew contemplative, even sounding a bit disappointed. Well, it's normal not to know him. He wasn't a huge star, and he had so many anti-fans who constantly made him a laughingstock. I had planned to have my father invest in resources 10 times better than what he had before, but then he retired. I replied, "You shouldn't worry too much about it. Maybe he thinks making people happy is a reward in itself." Ruby continued rambling to herself. What will he do now that he's retired? We get married this year? I wonder what lucky woman will get to marry him. She better protect the best chickie boy in the world. Otherwise, I'll chase her to the ends of the earth and never let her off. I was speechless, wiping the cold sweat from my forehead. I decided to probe a bit further. By the way, Miss Ruby, are you absolutely certain we don't need to meet before we register the marriage? Ruby's tone turned icy again. Yes. As I said, I'm very sure we don't need to meet. I replied, fine. I just hope you don't regret it when the time comes. Ruby's mood chilled even further. Mr. Noble, what do you mean by that? Are you regretting this? Do you want to violate our agreement? Don't forget we've signed a contract. You aren't allowed to back out. I chuckled to myself and replied, don't worry, I definitely won't regret it. Still seemingly uneasy, Ruby added, Mr. Noble, remember the clause at the end of the contract. If anyone breaches it, they'll pay a heavy price. I smiled and typed out each word slowly. I know. Rest assured, whoever regrets it first is a grandson, the loser. Ruby seemed to think for 2 seconds, and, as if making a final resolution, she replied decisively, fine, it's a deal. Whoever regrets it is a grandson. I was speechless. Miss Ruby, I'm sure many people have praised your IQ, haven't they? Naturally, she replied. I take great pride in my high IQ. It's significantly above average. I had no words left. 3 days flashed by in a heartbeat. During that time, Ruby and I had zero contact. On the day of our marriage registration, I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau 30 minutes earlier than her. As Ruby's red Ferrari pulled into view, I was still struggling against a wave of sleepiness. The moment she caught sight of my face, she slammed onto the steering wheel as if she'd been nailed to the spot. Without hesitation, I marched toward her car. Simultaneously, the phone in my pocket vibrated incessantly. It was a barrage of messages from Ruby. She had completely tossed aside the cold, harsh persona of the last few days. Her tone was frantic and ecstatic. Mr. Noble, can we push back the registration a bit? I saw him today. He's walking toward me right now. I want to say one word to him, just one. Please. Damn it, my heart is beating so fast. Am I gonna have a heart attack? I can do this today. I stopped in front of her car and lightly tapped the window with my fingertip. Ruby slowly rolled down the glass. Her eyes were swimming with complex emotions. There was even a trace of devout worship in them. It was as if she had finally reached the moment she'd dreamed of her entire life, her fingertips trembling violently. I met her gaze and reached out my hand. Hello, I'm Liam. Ruby went dead silent. As her expression froze, I softly added, of course, you can also call me by my stage name, Chicky. The air turned to ice. The smile on Ruby's face cracked inch by inch. She sat there paralyzed, but her phone, which was on speaker, kept blaring. Her best friend was pestering her. Ruby, are you still there? You haven't answered me. Did you meet Liam yet? The Noble family always claimed their son was sick, so hardly anyone has seen him. I'm so curious. Say something, Ruby. Did you meet Liam? Ruby finally snapped out of it, looking down in a daze. She forced out a single word. No. Her friend was shocked. You didn't meet Liam? Then who did you meet? Ruby was silent for a long time before she slowly closed her eyes. She bit her lip and muttered, I met my grandfather. Her friend was speechless. I was speechless. We ended up in a private room at a hot pot restaurant. The pot was bubbling away, sending up clouds of steam as we sat opposite each other. The registration had been postponed because, after hanging up the phone, Ruby had closed her eyes and slapped herself twice in disbelief, swelling her face so much she couldn't take a proper ID photo. Right now, her ears were as red as blood. I couldn't tell if it was from the slaps or pure embarrassment. Since we left the bureau, She had followed me like a zombie. Even after sitting down, she hadn't uttered a single word. Her regret-filled eyes were fixed on her plate, staring so hard she looked ready to burn holes through it. I waved a hand in front of her face. "Miss Ruby." She jolted back to reality. Her eyes lingered on my face for exactly 1 second before she looked away at lightning speed. Then, she grabbed a bottle from the table and took a massive, frantic gulp. "What is it?" she sputtered, coughing. I stayed silent for a beat before saying, "That's the sesame oil." Ruby froze, her face turning a sickly shade of green. Why, huh?" I waited for her to finish processing the oil incident before speaking again. "It's nothing, really. I just wanted to ask if we need to buy rings." Ruby was stunned for a second, her voice trembling with a faint, hopeful expectation. Well, of course we do." I cut her off with a wave of my hand and started rummaging through some documents. "All right, hold on. Let me look for a second." Hearing that, Ruby's eyes instantly lit up, and her hands clenched tightly against the hem of her skirt. Under her expectant gaze, I pulled out the contract and flipped through it with purpose. I pointed to a specific page. "Oh, almost forgot," I said. "You wrote it right here, clear as day. The two of us don't need to wear wedding rings." Ruby went silent. The smile she was trying to force vanished instantly. "Now, I need to check if there are any specific requirements for when we're eating," I added. "Ruby, don't start eating yet." I lower my head to flip through the contract again. Ruby bit her lip, her resentful gaze falling squarely on the papers in my hand. "It's best if we put this in a safe. By the way, have you bought a safe yet?" Ruby choked on her words. "No," she managed to squeeze out. I nodded. "Fine, I'll go buy one later." "Okay," Ruby replied, sounding utterly dejected. I tucked the contract away and turned to her. "All right, are you still heading abroad tomorrow?" Ruby stiffened, biting her lower lip hard. "Yes. And am I still supposed to go with you?" She kept biting her lip. "Yes. And am I still supposed to meet my first love?" Ruby continued to gnaw on her lip, but refused to make a sound. "And are you still going to cover for me?" Ruby bit her lip so hard she nearly drew blood. After a long silence, she whispered, "Liam, actually I let out a tisk," and cut her off. "I know what you're going to say. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, right? If I miss this chance, who knows how long I'll have to wait, right?" I know. You don't have to repeat yourself." Ruby shook her head. "No, that's not it. I know. I interrupted again. "You're bringing your best friend along too, right? Don't worry. Whether or not I get back together with my ex is entirely up to that relationship expert friend of yours. Good luck." Ruby lowered her eyes. "Actually, all right, I said. "I know you've got my back. Thanks a lot. What time does the flight take off tomorrow night?" Ruby choked up, her voice trembling violently. "Liam." I turned my head, and she sobbed. "Please, stop playing with me." As soon as she spoke, her long lashes lowered, and she looked as if she were about to collapse. She began to weep uncontrollably. "I'm sorry. I'm an idiot, a high-level idiot, a total moron, the biggest fool in the world. If I had even a shred of a brain, things wouldn't have ended up like this. How could I be so stupid? When my mother gave birth to me, she probably threw me away and raised the placenta instead, didn't she? Am I just a sentient placenta? Liam, can you please just ignore the Ruby from the last few days? She's dead. Yes, she's dead. She's actually dead. In reality, I am." Snowy. As Ruby spoke, a look of almost desperate pride flickered across her face. In the next moment, she even pushed her chair back, eyes brimming with tears, and knelt down right in front of me. Her fingers tightly gripped my sleeve, her voice hitching with a sense of aggrieved vulnerability. How should I put this? For the registration today, Ruby was wearing a puffy white dress with matching silk stockings, her jet black hair cascading over her shoulders. She radiated an aura of purity and glamour. Yet here she was, using the voice of a tiny kitten to ask me to stop teasing her. I turned my head away and took a sip of tea, feeling a fire burning in my chest that made my throat feel parched. "All right," I said. "Stop making a scene." Ruby looked up at me in a daze, her wet lashes clumping together, a tiny bead of blood even seeping from the corner of her mouth where she'd bitten it. I tapped the table, cutting her off. Fine. Quiet now. Let's eat first. Hearing that, Ruby immediately shut her mouth and sat back down, looking utterly pathetic. A moment later, she blinked her red-rimmed eyes and asked cautiously, "So, can we still register the marriage?" I remained speechless, my mind fixated on only one thing. I couldn't let that massive settlement fund fly away. "Of course we have to," I said. Ruby nodded, rubbing her eyes vigorously. Her entire aura shifted from despondent to hopeful at that one sentence. I really still have this chance? That's wonderful." But almost as quickly, she lowered her head in disappointment again. "Can you give me a chance to introduce myself again?" she whimpered. "Just Ruby and Liam getting to know each other for the first time? Can we start over right now? Please, I'm begging you. Truly, women are so troublesome. What's the difference?" I knit my brows impatiently. "Suit yourself. Whatever works for you." Ruby looked up in disbelief, her eyes sparkling as she gazed at me. The moment I took a sip of tea, she scrambled to refill it. The second I took a bite of vegetables, she rushed to dab my mouth with a napkin. When I shot her an impatient look, she immediately knelt beside me and started massaging my legs, looking up at me expectantly while she worked. I was at a loss. I suddenly lost my appetite. "Ruby, stop doing this." The expression on her face froze. She sniffled. "Why? Didn't you say we could get to know each other again?" I wiped my mouth and spoke bluntly. "You don't need to waste your time on me. You're free to like whoever you want. I won't interfere. Don't forget, this marriage is just a transaction. 1 year from now, we'll divorce," I continued. "Don't go getting thick-skinned and refusing to sign the papers when the time comes." "These were your own words." "What? Did you forget already?" Ruby's world seemed to crumble around her. Her shoulders shook. She was utterly heartbroken. Her hands fell limp by her sides. "No, but I said..." "Oh, right, I added. I think I forgot to tell you. I never had any expectations for this marriage. None at all. You acting like this only irritates me. I hope you maintain your composure." Having said my piece, I stood up. "All right, finish your meal. I'm leaving first." Ruby finally snapped out of her daze. She let out a small sob and instinctively reached out. I quickly shoved the contract into her hand, blocking her attempt to grab my arm. Ruby finally composed herself enough to see what was in her hands, and she nearly rolled her eyes back and passed out on the spot. Ignoring her reaction, I chuckled and said, "Go home and read what you wrote, twice. Your memory seems a bit shaky. How could you forget your own words so quickly?" I stood up, casting a final glance at her white-knuckled grip on the papers. As I walked toward the door, the glass reflection showed Ruby trembling. She looked like she was about to shatter into 1,000 pieces. From that day on, Ruby completely discarded her cold, arrogant persona and became talkative to an almost annoying degree. She had to say good morning every morning and good night every night, and she created a mountain of kitten emojis just for us. What she ate, where she went, what movie she watched, she had to call and recount every tiny detail to me. "I'm just sharing my life," she'd say. "I want you to know everything I experience in a day. Oh, by the way, Liam, I accidentally canceled your plane ticket. You won't be mad at me, will you? Oh my God, such a good ticket, suddenly gone. Do you think this means you and your first love just aren't meant to be? It's so tragic. How could this happen?" I couldn't help but knit my brows and say coldly, "You accidentally canceled the plane ticket? Are you usually this scatterbrained?" Ruby panicked, her voice starting to shake. "Of course not. If you're always this careless, I'll have to reconsider our marriage agreement," I said, my patience wearing thin. Ruby grew even more frantic, her voice thick with sobs and humble pleading. "Liam, please don't reconsider. I was wrong. I didn't do it by accident. Actually, I did it on purpose. I let out a long sigh. Don't start crying over every little thing. Constant weeping drains a family's luck." Ruby stopped crying instantly. After taking a moment to soothe herself, she ventured cautiously, "I bought a dress today. It's the same style as that streamer girl you always like. Do you want to see it?" She added, "Oh, right. Those outfits you saved to your favorites on your alt account last month? I bought all of those, too." I was speechless. What could I do? After all, she was my hardcore fan. And, she continued, I even saw the comments you left under them. I was speechless. I was getting so bombarded by her flurry of messages that I snapped a little. Knock it off, I said. If you're going to send the photos, just send them. Otherwise, stop bothering me. Keep annoying me, and you're going to get it. Ruby went silent for 10 minutes, then proceeded to send a continuous stream of 25 suggestive photos. From that point on, aside from sending me photos, she stopped talking nonsense altogether. However, she started showing up at my house. As soon as Ruby arrived, my mother greeted her as usual with a couple of sentences. Pointing upstairs, she said, "Oh, I'll go call Liam down right away." Ruby curled her lips politely, preparing to nod. But my mother immediately shook her head. "Oh, I almost forgot. You said before there was no need to meet, since it would be hard not to see each other in the future anyway." "I remember. Don't you worry, I won't call him. Definitely won't call him. Ha ha ha." "Don't mind me," my mom continued. "My memory is getting worse by the day. Usually, I can't even remember what time to take my meds." Ruby fell silent for a long time, then let out 2 awkward ha-ha laughs. "Auntie," she said seriously, "you might not believe this, but the Ruby from that day was actually possessed by madness." My mother looked confused. Ruby added, "Oh, right. Actually, I should be calling you Mom now." "Mom, you don't need to be a stranger with me." Facing Ruby's suddenly submissive attitude, my mother looked a bit flustered. Ruby didn't seem to think anything was wrong. She softened her voice and said gently, "Mom, have you had breakfast yet? I'll go buy some for you. What do you like to eat? Oh, by the way, the floor hasn't been mopped today, has it? The windows aren't cleaned either, and I see there's laundry that hasn't been washed. You go rest, Mom. I'll get it all done right now." "Don't worry, Mom. I've loved doing housework since I was a little girl. My family has never even hired a maid." My mother was so stressed she ran to me, trembling. "Son, do you think Ruby has got a bit simple? She wasn't like this a few days ago." I had no words. For several days straight after that, every time I woke up and walked downstairs, I would see Ruby at my house. With a mop in her left hand and a rag in her right, a tight apron around her waist, she worked without a single complaint. I felt a wave of secondhand embarrassment. I sighed and said, "Ruby, is there really a need for all this?" Ruby bit her lip, pretending not to hear, her voice blunt. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm going to go tidy up your study." After that, she spent an entire evening alone in my study. When she left, she seemed to be in a daze, even accidentally tripping over herself. I didn't know what was wrong with her until I received a message from her that night. She asked, "Liam, is it true that you can't forget your first love?" I didn't deny it. I spoke objectively. For anyone, a first love is probably hard to forget. Ruby suddenly went silent. I thought for a bit and asked, "Do you actually mind that I have a first love?" "It's fine. If you mind, we don't have to get married." Ruby still said nothing. She showed up again the next day, but she had suddenly ditched her usual high-waisted skirts for a very youthful, girlish pink pleated skirt paired with a hoodie. The skirt looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. "Ruby, what's with you today?" I asked. She lowered her head, her hands clutching her skirt tightly, looking as if she had a secret she couldn't share. Me dressing like this, do you like it?" To be honest, with Ruby's looks, she'd look stunning in anything. I chuckled and said, "It's actually quite nice." At the compliment, her eyes lit up, but then a shadow quickly crossed her face as she thought of something else. Her voice dropped to a mumble. "As long as you like it, I'm willing." I was left completely confused. That evening, while I was tidying up my study, a photograph accidentally fell out of a book. It was an old picture of me and my first love. I'd only kept it because it was tucked away and forgotten. As I bent down to pick it up, I realized why the outfit Ruby was wearing felt so familiar. It was identical to the one my ex was wearing in the photo. What a little idiot. Ruby's strange behavior today was her trying to mimic my ex-girlfriend. Caught between laughter and tears, I immediately called her. "Maybe my mother didn't make this clear to you," I said, "but my first love cheated on me, and I caught her. The reason I was going to meet her was just to settle some final asset divisions. When I said I wanted to go abroad with you, I genuinely just wanted a vacation. I have absolutely no desire to get back with her." Ruby went silent for a moment, her voice suddenly bubbling over with undeniable joy. Why are you telling me all this all of a sudden? I didn't even really want to know, you know. I had no words. By the next day, Ruby had transformed from the girl who cries while cooking into the girl who cooks with a radiant beam on her face, even humming "My Wonderful Chickie Boy" under her breath. And so, Ruby and I spent a month together. Day 1, I thought she was incomprehensible. Day 7, I thought she was a bit pathetic. Day 13, I realized she was actually quite adorable sometimes. Day 23, possessed by some strange impulse, I gave her cheek a playful pinch. Day 30, watching her talk to my mother under the sunlight, her profile looked exceptionally beautiful. Before I even realized what I was doing, I leaned in and planted a kiss on her cheek. She froze instantly, the glass slipping from her fingertips and shattering on the floor with a soft clink. Once she snapped out of it, she bolted into the inner room. She didn't carefully peek back out until my mother told her I was leaving. In the next heartbeat, I caught her wrist and pulled her back. I leaned down, one arm circling her waist and the other tilting her chin up as I slowly lower my head. Her breath hitched. She nervously gripped my clothes, her eyes fluttering shut. But I only tilted my head to plant a soft kiss on her hand before quickly pulling away. Ruby opened her eyes in shock. I arched an eyebrow and teased. So, what exactly were you expecting when you closed your eyes just now? Her face turned beet red, and she gave my chest a playful shove. Liam, you absolute jerk. Before she could finish her sentence, I leaned down again, sealing her lips. This wasn't a gentle taste. It was a dominant, forceful entry, prying her teeth apart and claiming her with irresistible intensity. Her legs went weak under the weight of the kiss. Every breath became entangled with the other, the soft sounds of friction between our lips creating a restless, electric atmosphere. When the kiss finally ended, she buried her face in my chest, trying to steady her breathing. A moment later, she nuzzled against me like a tiny kitten and spoke softly. Oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you something very unfortunate. My house was burglarized 2 days ago. I looked at her skeptically. Burglarized? Did you lose anything valuable? I asked, concerned. Ruby shook her head. Nothing was missing. I frowned. Then what did they burgle? Ruby pursed her lips, her expression dead serious. They stole our contract. All 18 copies of it. I was speechless, completely stunned. Stole the contracts? Why on earth would a thief want those? Ruby shook her head with gravity, looping her arms around my neck. Who knows? Maybe they wanted to sell them for scrap paper. I saw the corners of her mouth twitching upward, unable to hide her smirk, and I realized exactly what had happened. I brought my teeth together. Ruby, you're a goner. With that, I lower my head once more to silence her. In the blink of an eye, the day for us to register our marriage arrived, for real this time. I had already pulled the car around to the front of her place, but she still wasn't ready. When she finally pushed the door open and stepped out, she didn't get into the car right away. Instead, she stood at the gate, trembling as she shook hands with the drooping branches of a fruit tree and a stray kitten near the entrance. Sister number 1, she whispered, wish me luck with the registration. Sister number 2, wish me a happy wedding. Sister number 3, wish me a perfect marriage. Thank you, sisters. I'm not nervous anymore. She paused for a second. Actually, never mind. I'm dying of nerves. At that point, I got out of the car to hurry her along. Ruby, let's move out. It's time to go register. Ruby froze. She shot one look at me and then quickly covered her eyes with her hands. Thinking she had dust in them, I stepped forward to take her hand. Instead, a cold drop of liquid fell onto my palm. I paused. Ruby, what's wrong? Why are you crying? She threw herself into my arms, her voice choked with emotion. It feels like a dream. Actually, in the past, I went to the airport so many times just to see you. But every time, I only dared to watch from a distance. I just wanted one more look, but I never dared to get close. I was so afraid people would find out it was me and start whispering about a relationship, or even use me to spread rumors about you. I couldn't bear that. But from today on, I don't have to be afraid anymore. Because from now on, I am your wife. I can finally stand by your side openly. Liam, No matter when you decide to return to the industry, I will be right behind you, supporting you forever. She added, from now on, I am your wife, but I'm still your most loyal fan. I felt a surge of emotion. I patted her back and let out a soft chuckle. All right, stop crying. Your photos won't look good if you keep this up. A beautiful wife like mine. I definitely need to take a perfect wedding photo today. Ruby's tears turned into a laugh as she nodded vigorously. Yeah, we headed to the Civil Affairs Bureau. That night, a new entry suddenly trended on the hot searches. Me and my chickie boy are married. Yeah, your videos are great. Next time I see one, I'll hit the subscribe button. No. Luckily you didn't subscribe back then. If you had, I might have missed out on you for a lifetime. So, am I logging out now? Will we meet again? Of course we will. You have to be happy, okay? Yes, you have to like, and you have to subscribe, okay? Liked, subscribed. Now scrolling to the next video. The person you like won't see me after this. It's okay. You have to subscribe to someone else too, right? Yes. Wait, why aren't you taking photos? How am I supposed to live? Yes, my little possessive wife, haha. This is a story with a fairly simple plot. Another thing is it's not really clear why the female lead is so obsessed with the male lead. It's light and easy to listen to, just for entertainment. Thank you, everyone.